Now, as announced earlier, let me talk about fixation force implant required at molar and issue whether it's the right method or not to plant single fixture for replacing the molar. For example, let's think about the case of performing implant replacing the 46 mandible molar, which has two divergent roots. With this complex curvature and elongated oval shape, just like a peanut, in order to see if single round fixture could withstand all the occlusion load that had been acting at these two roots, roughly comparing the perimeters of fixture and the roots with each other on the figure, and we can see there is this much difference of perimeter. However, we usually cannot recognize the difference is so big. The fixture to be planted will be on the excessive large amount of occlusion load. That's because we approach it visually by the area, not by the perimeter. And also the limitation of our ability to recognize it visually through the figure. So we need to take a mathematical approach to realize the difference is a big problem to be solved. Let's take a look at this figure. There are three circles. Let the diameter of small circle and big circle is r and 2r. Then the circumference of small circle equals pi r. So the sum of circumferences of two small circles equals 2 pi r. And the circumference of big circle also equals 2 pi r. So we know it by the calculation. The sum of circumference of two small circles equals to that circumference of big circle. However, just looking at this figure, when the small circles are separated, it's hard to get the feeling the circumferences are the same as each other. So let's bring the small circles into the big circle and they are adjacent to each other. It's proven once again by the diagram without calculation and becomes more clear than before. The circumferences are the same as each other. Nevertheless, it's not still easy for us to feel the circumferences are the same as each other. What's wrong with us? For example, people understand well without figure. The sum of fixation force of two fixtures with diameter of 3 millimeters equals to that of fixture with diameter of 6 millimeters. But when you look at the figure, even though we know the circumferences are same each other, we cannot get the feeling the fixation forces are the same as each other. That's because we keep approaching it by the area only, and also the sum of areas of two small circles is just the half size of the area of the big circle right now. However, thanks to this mathematically proven diagram, we can make it clear the fixation forces are the same as each other at least. Nevertheless, it doesn't come realistic to us because the area of small circle is small. So I said it's the limitation of our ability to recognize it visually through the figure. So let's go a little further. As the small circle get bigger than before, the circumference also get bigger. So it's absolutely clear there is a difference of circumferences between big and small circles. However, if you raise the figure on the left like this, Just looking at the figure, it will be not easy to feel the sum of circumference of two small circles is bigger than the circumference of big circle. That's because we still approach it by the area, and also the area of small circles is still smaller than big circles. So let's go further again until the moment we can feel the difference of circumferences between them. As an example, if small circle gets bigger than before and the diameter becomes 3.8 millimeters, we can feel the difference of circumferences now because the sum of area of two small circles is similar to the area of the big circle, diameter of 5.3 millimeters. In other words, the sum of thickness of two small fixtures with diameter of 3.8 millimeters similar to that of fixture with 5.3 millimeters. However, in terms of fixation force, the sum of fixation force of two fixtures with diameter of 3.8 millimeters equals to that of fixture with diameter 7.6 millimeters, not 5.3 millimeters. In other words, the difference of circumference is much bigger than we recognize it visually through the figure. So, just looking at this figure without any thought, even though we know there is a difference of circumferences between them, we cannot get the feeling the difference is big enough to be a problem to be solved. So, the most common reaction after looking at this figure for the first time is like this. Yes, I see. So what? It's not bad. What's the problem? It's because we still approach it by the area and we have the limitation of ability to recognize it visually through the figure. But it's not the end. What's making more serious is there is a bare bone width left for the small circles grow in diameter. However, it's difficult now because they collide with each other due to lack of interdental space. But if it were the natural molar, it could grow bigger as the roots actually grow in elongate oval shape and make good use of this extra bone width left. So it's clear there will be more difference of fixation force between the fixture and the molar roots. This is the way of nature and this is the way of implant. It's because we have no choice but to plan around the fixture. If so, what do you think of this way? People say there are too many fixtures and they're so close. Of course, that's right. I know what they are worrying about. However, I think they are overlooking the seriousness of lack of fixation force on the molar area. I'll explain soon about it. Whatever, I think it's better and I'm doing this way. You might worry about the thickness of fixture, but the thickness of similar to that the fixture with diameter of 5.3 millimeters because the area can be regarded as the volume of thickness per unit length of the fixture. Anyway, there is a reason for the way of the nature. It's because two divergent roots are helpful to get the more fixation force than the single large roots, and also to withstand a cruise load from the occluding upper molar, with this also separated the three roots. The same thing goes for upper molar too. Because occluding lower molar has two divergent roots, and as you can see, the maxilla has a worse bone quality than the mandible, so there is additional one root at the upper molar to compensate for the insufficient fixation force. However, you can see well-developed bundle bones around the entire root surface, although the bone quality is bad. On the other hand, even though bone quality is good, the osteointegrance is usually bad at the medial and distal side of fixture. Therefore, I hope you keep in mind the fixture is supposed to lose fixation force by this length compared to the roots of natural teeth in most cases. So now I become very curious about how much the fixation force of natural molar roots is. In other words, I'd like to find out the size of diameter of fixture which has the fixation force equivalent to that of natural molar roots. However, natural molar roots are asymmetrical and irregular shape or elongated shape, not the round shape. So it's impossible to measure actual length of perimeter. For this reason, I decided to measure the perimeter of lower molar roots because it's relatively easy to measure actual length of perimeter. And if we know about the lower molar, we can naturally know about the upper molar too. So I decided to make a guess the diameter of fixture which has fixation force equivalent to that of roots of the natural lower molar by comparative measurement of perimeters on the figure. So after setting the reference size of diameter is 5 millimeters at the minimum, I assume the shape of lower molar root is elongated oval shape, and I brought the roots into the big circle for easier comparison because it's hard to compare the perimeters when the roots are separated. Then it became easier to be aware of that the difference of perimeter is as this much. And I assume the difference of perimeter is to be assumed approximately 45% of circumference of fixture with diameter of 5 millimeters. Then it's calculated by the formula of proportionality. The fixation force of molar roots equals to the L fixture with diameter of 7.3 millimeters at the minimum. However, as a matter of fact, we cannot plan the fixture with diameter of 7.3 millimeters because the width of human alveolar bone is not that large enough to accommodate it.